Hello, guys. How are you guys doing today? Welcome to another chapter of the Cinnamon Chats. Today we have Kara. Hi, Kara. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
Mhm. We glad to have you too. So tell us about you.
So my name is Kara Knickerbocker. I am currently living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Born and raised from Pennsylvania, not from Pittsburgh, but a small town outside. And yeah, I travel every chance that I get. I'm very passionate about empowering and encouraging other solo women to travel. And I'm also a writer, so yeah. And I'm glad that we met on Instagram.
Yes, I'm glad also that we are able to connect so we can have this conversation. Guys, she's a great writer, and she also have like a great pictures on her Instagram. So if you want to see her content, I'll leave the links below so you can check her sites out. And you can also connect with her. She's super responsive, super friendly. So yep.
Thank you.
So tell us, how did your travel adventure begin?
So it's kind of like a two-part story. As I said, I'm from a very small town. So when I was younger, my parents would take my brother and I to, we'd go on road trips, we'd go camping throughout the United States. But my first big international travel happened when I went to visit my brother, who was living in England, and that was 2011. And I just remember when I was over there, I remember thinking like, oh my God, the architecture is beautiful. Hearing the accent. It was the first time that I held like foreign currency. It was just, all of these things were just so new to me. And I would say that's where like the spark started. But I really traveled, I really started my solo travel in the year of 2013. So I graduated college in 2012. I moved to Pittsburgh, where I currently am living, and I worked a job for a year that I didn't really like, and I was miserable, and I was so confused because I was doing everything that people say that you should do, right? You know, get your degree, move to the big city, which this to me was a big city. Get a job. I had an apartment, but I was still unhappy. And so I thought that there was something more that I was missing, and I was seeking to be fulfilled. And so I decided I'm never going to be this young again, single, I don't have children, don't have any major responsibilities or health issues. So I bought a one-way ticket to Spain. And I lived with a family for about 3 months on the coast of Blanes, a little town called Blanes, and it was beautiful. And then the other 2 to 3 months I spent just traveling around Europe. And when I came back, I took some time to, get an apartment, and I had to get a job again, and then I had some health issues, and so it wasn't until end of 2015, beginning of 2016 that I started really traveling, and I have not stopped since. So I've been to over 40 countries at this point, and I hope to continue that and keep going. And I know we spoke before about it, but I've been continuing to do this with a full-time job and getting my master's degree and running a reading series here in the city. So it's something that I hope to continue, and I never see travel as something that is like a bug that you cure or that goes away. So
That's awesome. So what has been unique to your experience on being a solo woman traveler?
I think there's a lot of things. I will say that I did not originally plan on going alone. I never wanted to go alone. And I've talked to many other solo travelers, especially females, who share that same thing. Maybe they didn't want to go alone, but they sort of ended up doing it anyway. And that's been my experience. I didn't want to go alone, but I couldn't find someone to go with me. There's a lot of people that will say, oh yeah, like I wish I could do that, or I would love to, come with you, but I can't because of time or money or, various reasons, which of course makes sense. But I thought to myself, if I keep waiting for someone to go with me, I'm never gonna go, right? I'm never gonna go. Or if I keep waiting for someone to go with me, maybe the time that finally works for them, it's not going to work. Like maybe opportunities or circumstances in my life have changed. So yeah, I didn't originally plan on going alone, but I did. And I would say that it is the most empowering thing that you can do, especially as a woman, to go alone. You really learn to be with yourself, and you learn what you are capable of. You learn this sort of like inner strength that you have. And I also think that it's easy to make friends. People think that solo travel is very lonely, but it's not. It's absolutely not. If you think about traveling with a group of friends, right? Or a big group of people, you tend to stay in that group. You tend to talk and be amongst yourself. And so if you travel solo, it's easier for someone to approach you, which can be good and bad. But it's easier for someone to approach you because you're not as intimidating. Like, one person approaching another person is easier than one person coming over and talking to like a big group of people that don't really look like they have any interest in conversing or anything like that. So I've made a lot of friends. I have made so many connections and learned so much. So, I could go on for days about it, but yeah, I think if you want to speak to the issues of safety, concerns like that, I have always told my mom worries about me a lot traveling alone, which is understandable. And a lot of people do as well. They'll say, oh my gosh, you're going alone, But I will say that things can happen no matter where you're at, right? Things can happen anywhere. And so I have actually felt more safe in other countries, even countries where I don't speak the language, than I have here, in the States. And I won't get into what's been going on politically, but things can happen anywhere. Like I could cross the street and get hit by a car, things can happen anywhere. So I never wanted to limit myself, and I never wanted to keep myself at home just worrying about like, what if this, what if that. There are more precautions, I would say, that you have to take. And you have to be aware of your surroundings, and you have to be smart and trust your instincts. But I would never, ever let the fear of something happening hold me back from going.
Being a sole female traveler, what you say that has been the biggest, richest experience that you ever had while traveling solo? And you realize like, oh, this is what I need to keep counting on myself.
So many different experiences, but I think particularly in traveling solo, there's this freedom and this flexibility that you have, but also had I not been alone, certain places I wouldn't have met the people that I met. And to me, like, when you talk about favorite travel stories or memories and things like that, a lot of it is wrapped up in other people. A lot of it is wrapped up in the connections that I've made. I feel like when you travel and you meet people, those connections, those bonds are cemented so quickly. Like you're really able to dive in deeper with conversations because you're just you allow yourself to be more vulnerable. You're already in like a more vulnerable state than you would be. And you realize how short of a time you have like with that person or with that friend. And so I think it's just easier to be more emotionally connected. So yeah, a lot of the people that I've met, I would say that's been the most rewarding and richest part of all of this. And a lot of it wouldn't have happened if I wasn't alone. So
that is awesome. That's awesome. So like we talk a little bit, you explain about like doing a lot of things at the same time, like studying, working, and traveling. So how, when you plan your trips, for how long do you plan it? And how do you think about making the most of the time on that place?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get asked this a lot because I have since finished my degree, so I'm not currently in school anymore. But yeah, I was running a reading series. I was a graduate student full-time, and I was also a full-time employee at the university that I work for here. So the way that I would be able, and the way that I have been able to travel so much, is because I would travel around holidays and on long weekends. So I'll give you an example. If it was a holiday here in the States, whether it was the 4th of July, Memorial Day, something like that, and it was around a weekend, I would take just one vacation day, and that would allow me to have maybe 5 days off total around the weekend. So I have gone to places like, I've gone to Copenhagen for essentially a long weekend. I've gone to Ecuador. I've gone to, basically most of my traveling that I've done in the past, especially in the past 3 to 4 years, it's all been these like short, maybe 3 to 5 day trips. And for some people, I know that seems a little ridiculous, like how you can't possibly get everything that you would normally get in 4 days. There's a lot more to see in a country. There's always a lot more to see in a city. But my thought process was always that in the States, domestically, it can be very expensive, right? To fly from, I'm in Pennsylvania, it can be expensive to fly from Pennsylvania to California. So I would just basically find my destinations by price. And that's how I ended up going to Copenhagen that particular weekend. I found a very, very cheap flight, and I thought, I can't pass this up. I can't. Much rather spend a weekend in Copenhagen or in Quito or, wherever, all these places, than just sit at home. So the way that I would structure it when I actually was there in the country is, and this kind of comes into play with traveling solo as a woman, but I do try not to stay out late at night. Like I like to walk everywhere on my trips. So I would try not to walk or be out late at night. So I would be in the hostel or the hotel. I mainly stay in hostels, but I would stay in that hostel late at night. But in the morning, I always get up early when I travel. I like to, really take advantage of all the time. So I cram those trips. Those 3 to 5 days are not, necessarily relaxing. I'm going. I'm seeing as much as I can while I'm in that place. So I just take advantage of every opportunity. And I try to see multiple cities. I've planned it where maybe I fly into one city in a country, and then I travel down and I fly out from a different city. So yeah.
So that's awesome. Regarding planning, because I was really curious about it. One of the things I like about going to different places is food. I love eating. So how do you do when you have that short period of time, but also you have another country that have a variety of plates? on things that you can try. So do you pick a list of what you're gonna eat, and would you say your top three international food favorites?
So I also like to eat. It's my favorite pastime. It's my favorite. I thought. Eating is interesting because, so when I travel, I always try to have, like I'll bring like protein bars and snacks like that because I'm also trying to be very conscious of budget, right? As much as I love traveling and eating out and, trying different foods, I'm also aware of the fact that it adds up, right? It can get very expensive. So I'll often take protein bars or granola bars and pack those in like my day pack, which is also a good idea if you don't know if you're ever going to be stranded somewhere or just suddenly, be starving. But I also tend to eat out the most, I would say, around like lunchtime. So if you're traveling and you've noticed a lot of, like if you go to a restaurant, let's say, a lot of restaurants have lunch specials and they tend to be cheaper than dinner specials. So what I usually do is I would usually try to I feel like in the morning I get up early and I'm walking around and I'm seeing what I need to see and doing what I want to do. And when I get hungry, that's when I would stop and have like a really big lunch. And then for dinner, there's so many places that have like the best street food. I always like to you can always grab something from a cart or from a vendor. So that's mainly what I would do. But as far as favorites, if I had to ever pick like a last meal, I would have gelato from Italy. I would have, I love Thai food because I love like spicy and sweet. Oh goodness, there's just so many. I just want everything. I just want a big platter. I always try to find a local dish from wherever I'm at to try, but it's impossible to, in these short trips anyway, unless I was spending my whole time eating in a restaurant, it would be impossible for me to try like all of the food, all of the national dishes. So it's just an excuse to go back, is what I say. So have you been in different
cultures, even for a short period of time?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you have learned that you have taken back home and adapted back to your own daily living?
That's a great question. I definitely think when it comes to just, if you want to talk about like challenges, cultural challenges or shocks maybe, I think that one of the things that I've learned the most about traveling is just that it's made me a more empathetic person. It's made me more open-minded. It has made me more, it's made me non-judgmental. And this is one of the reasons why I think travel is priceless and is so important for anyone to do. Like, even if it's on a smaller scale, just to be able to get outside of your small bubble and realize how big the world around you is and how, yes, we are all so different, but I know many people say it, we are very much the same. Kindness is a universal language. That is something that I believe to my core, and something that with traveling solo, especially as a female, I have relied heavily on the kindness of strangers. And I would not have been able to be in certain, I wouldn't have felt as safe or as comfortable in some circumstances without the help of these kind and genuinely great people that I have met. Because I do think that deep down, most people are good. So most people, are willing to help, but you have to also meet them halfway. I think if you're in a place where you don't speak the language, just learning a few phrases just goes a long way. And also can be very helpful in instances of emergencies, like, so yeah, just being able to be open-minded. There's a lot of places that, hand gestures might not translate as well. The clothing that you wear, you want to be respectful. So I want to say that the changes that I've adapted to my lifestyle here after coming back to the States has been more in my heart and in my mind. Yeah.
How would you encourage a person or a solo female traveler to begin traveling, and what kind of steps to begin on to consider would you suggest her to have in mind as she plans beginning this experience?
I can certainly lay down, steps and tips, but I think it all comes down to one really important thing, and it's that's just that if you want it, you just have to do it. Truly, you just have to do it. The things that hold us back the most are time, money, and fear, right? In my opinion, I think that's what holds a lot of people traveling. And I know that some people, there's issues with, leaving the country, and, maybe others haven't been as privileged as I am with the United States passport. You can go a lot of places. So I do want to be aware of that fact. But in general, I think it all comes down to, like, you reach a point, and this is the point that I got in my life when it sent me, buying a one-way ticket to Spain, because I was like, all right, I'm out of here. You reach a point in your life where you're like, if I don't do this, I'm gonna explode. You have to want it that badly. And I think a lot of people do want it, but they have a lot of fears and hesitations, and that makes complete sense, right? But I think if you don't find a way to overcome those, you either will never go, and you'll have to. I have so many people that said, I wish I would have started earlier. And I wish I would have started earlier. Like, I see a lot of people that I'm meeting and connecting with, like other solo travelers that are, doing this when they're like 17 or 19. And I wish I would have started that young. But yeah, I think that the main things, it'll hold you back and you'll regret it. Or you'll finally reach a point where you just decide, that's it, I'm just gonna book it. And that is the big thing. And I found that for a lot of the things in my life that I've wanted it, but I finally just had to psych myself up, and I just had to do it. I really wanted to run a half marathon, and I never thought that I could. And I signed up for one. And it's like, once you book that flight, or once you sign up, now it's like, okay, I did it. I did it. Well, with the half marathon part, you have to actually run the race. You have to train. But with booking, it's done. You booked it. And so I think when it comes to those fears, the time, money, and fear, I think fear is the biggest one. Time is something that I have had to work through a lot on my own, because I know that I've spoken with you before about some of my health issues, but shortly before I went to Peru, I had dreamed of going to Peru and had wanted to go, and I was having heart issues, and I had to have a pacemaker put in. And so that experience opened up my eyes to the fact that, cliche as it sounds, tomorrow is not promised. I don't know if I'm always going to have my health, or be in the opportunities that I am now, the space where I am now, where as I was before when I went to Spain, I didn't have any major responsibilities. You definitely can still travel with a family, but I do think that it's easier to travel. Like, it's just easier for me to pick up and go than it would be if I had a family, because I, of course, would have to make, arrangements differently. So time is something that I think people just have to come to terms with the fact that it's kind of not like that it's running out, but the clock is ticking, and so every second that you wait to do something that you don't want to do, that you continue, like, either working a job you don't like, or saving up. The money thing too. I've seen so many people buy really nice cars, or like TVs, or they buy their coffee every morning from Starbucks or something. And I just saved up. I just sold my possessions and I saved up, and I certainly don't come from a place of wealth, but I decided that if this is something that I really wanted to do, I was going to have to make it a priority. So I think that if you don't end up making it a priority, it won't happen.
That's huge. That's huge. What has been your favorite story that you always tell about traveling? It can be a funny one, it can be something unique that is marked in the shelf of your memory. And
I have a couple, but I do want to go back to your point before, because I realized I forgot to give some beginning steps for people. Obviously, doing your research. That's one thing. You want, if you have a place in mind, like let's say you've always wanted to go to Spain or to Greece, or I don't know, Cambodia, wherever. Do your research, which can be very overwhelming, I know. But do your research, and when it comes to the actual traveling part, something that I've in just only recent years have done is I've connected a lot more with like-minded travelers. I think that's really important. There's now a ton of especially for solo travelers, there's Girls Love Travel, there's these female wander groups, and if you're in these groups, you can ask questions, you can search in the forum where people have talked before and who have gotten advice about specific locations, things like that. But honestly, if you just do even a simple Google search, it'll produce wonders. So finding a community that can help you with specific answers, and also if you are worried about going alone. I know a lot of people who use those groups and those communities, they say, okay, I'm gonna be in Barcelona this week. Would anyone like to meet up for a drink, or and people are eager to do that. People are eager to do that, or people that need help, hey, I'm stranded here, can someone help me? Can a local help me? And so I think that's really important, is if you are able to establish a community, and even just have that community presence, that source of support. But yeah, do your research, and then when it comes to actually going, I like to make sure that people back home, they have copies of my passport. I've made people aware of my destinations. They have my itinerary, my flight numbers, things like that, and just basically use common sense. I think the thought of going alone is a lot scarier than actually going. It's a little it's incredibly intimidating if you haven't done it. And then even when you're on the plane, you're what am I doing? And then once you get there, it just sort of works itself out, and you find that you have experiences that you wouldn't have had before. And so many people have been where I am, where it's I was terrified to go, I didn't want to go alone, but then I went and I love it. So yeah, I just wanted to use those as some tips, just for safety, and if you're concerned, I typically avoid, at the beginning of my traveling, I would avoid alcohol and going out late at night. I would I would stay inside, like obviously after dark, just things like that if I was really concerned. But honestly, like, use your judgment and just be aware of your surroundings. I think that's one of the things that can be kind of draining. Like, one of the challenges of solo travel is, like, you are looking out for yourself. So your mind is constantly running to, you can't ask someone to, well, I mean, you can ask someone to, like, hold your bag or watch your bag, but typically, like, you're hauling around your backpack everywhere you go, and so you have to, like, constantly be on the lookout and be mindful of what's going on around you. So I'm sorry, what was your second question? Was the travel story? Like,
yeah, your favorite travel story.
Yeah, so I have a couple, and as I mentioned, they're basically kind of all wrapped up into people. From my first solo trip in 2013, when I was traveling throughout Europe, I want to say it was maybe around like the 3-month mark, and I was in Belgium, and I ended up meeting this couple who were older couple, and they reminded me of my parents. And I think at that point, like, I had started to, like, get kind of not homesick, but I just missed the comfort of that. And we were in the same place, and we just ended up talking. And they still, to this day, we email back and forth. They live in California. They're also from the States. And I have gone to see them and visit them. And so it's like my second, family at this point. And this was back in 2013. And here we are 7 years later, still very much in touch. But one of my favorite travel stories, I'll tell you two. And again, all wrapped up into people. But I had just come back from a weekend. I'm like a weekend warrior, right? These weekend trips. I had just come back from a weekend in Morocco, and I came back and I was in Sevilla in Spain, and it was like, I want to say maybe 10 o'clock at night, and I had gotten off the bus and I was walking back to my hostel, and the trip itself was great, but the end of the trip, like, there were a bunch of things had gone wrong. Like, we were late upon arrival. I was hungry, I was tired, my feet hurt, like, and I was walking back to my hostel, and I heard a song, and I honestly don't even know if I remember the name of the song, but I heard a song and I knew the song, and it obviously sounded like it was like live music coming from somewhere. And part of me, like, kind of wanted to go and follow the music, and then the other part of me was, tired and wanted to get back to my hostel. So I ended up following the music, and it was this band. They were from Germany, and they were just playing outside of a church. And they had a couple people that were standing there, and as more time went on, so I sat on the street corner and I listened. And as more time went on, more people started to gather. And I think at this point, I don't have the concept of time, but it was very late at night by this point. And they said, okay, guys, like, we've been playing for hours, like, we're tired, but we love this audience. And, like, if you want to hang out some more, like, you're more than welcome. So we hung out there right down by the river, and I started talking to, there were these, like, 3 girls that were from Spain, and then 1 guy from Italy, and we just started talking in like a group amongst ourselves, and we talked about everything from love to religion to our parents to childhood to our dreams and what we wanted. And again, this just goes back to, like, these, like, deep conversations that you're really able to enter and to open up with. And of course, like, I only could speak English. Like, I can speak a little bit of Spanish, but I mean, not fluently enough to have these types of conversations. And so this was all in English, which was, you know, a big eye opener for me. I think it says a lot about a country when so many people can communicate with you, but you can't communicate with them, you know? So that's one of the things that I've been working on this quarantine, is trying to like become more fluent. But anyway, we were having these amazing discussions. And then at some point, one of the girls looks down and says, "Oh my goodness, it's 7:30 in the morning." Almost 8 in the morning. We had sat there and talked, and like the sun was coming up, like there were birds in trees, and yeah, it was almost 8 in the morning. We had sat there and talked on a street corner the entire night into the morning. And wow. That day I was scheduled to leave and to go back to Barcelona. And so they knew that my train was leaving at 1 o'clock. And so they kind of like changed their plans, and we just hung out. We went and got breakfast together. We walked around the city together. And I just don't think, like, by the end of it, when I had to say goodbye, like we were all crying, and it was just a very emotional and like moving, I don't even have the words for it, but that is something that I will never forget. And that is something that I think, you know, had I not gone alone, maybe, had I not chosen to step outside of my comfort zone, or, you know, normally I would have never met these people. I never would have approached them. And here we are from all different countries with different native tongues, and we're having this emotional connection that is so strong. So, and then just the last one that I'll tell you, just because I think it's funny and great, is I was in Belize, and I was traveling alone, and I met two girls in my hostel, and they were nice enough to be like, "Oh, you know, we're gonna go grab dinner somewhere. Would you like to join us?" And normally, like, I feel like sometimes I get into a zone where, like, especially being a woman, you know, you kind of have to like put your blinders on and just, I don't know, like be careful of like who you talk to and everything like that and what you do. But I went, I wasn't scared of them or anything. I went, and we ended up spending the rest of my time in Belize together. And before I left, they said, "You know what? We love hanging out with you. Would you want to go to Mexico in March? Like, you know, we're going to go to Mexico in just a couple months." And I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I went to Mexico in March with them. And it was, the two girls' names are Kara and Lauren. And obviously my name is also Kara. She spells hers with a C and mine with a K. But it was a lot of their friends. I think there were like 9 or 10 of us total, all girls. And so number one, when you get a large group of people together, I mean, it can be hard because sometimes people want to do different things, people don't agree. And I had never traveled, I mean, if I have, it's been ages, with that many girls before. I didn't know them. I only knew Kara and Lauren. And so, I tell you what, we had so much fun. And it's like, we instantly all bonded. Everybody got along. It was incredible. You know, and there is something to be said about like safety in numbers and all that sort of thing. But I think that if you travel enough, we all sort of have, or you care deeply about travel and you travel deeply, we all kind of have the same sort of heart and the same sort of mindset where like a lot of us are more like easygoing and, you know, and approachable and, yeah, I don't know. So we all kind of had those same qualities in our character, and and so maybe that's why we clicked so much. But anyway, then a couple months later, Kara and I ended up going to Cuba together. And I looked over at her and I said, you know, we have been to 3 different countries together. She's also from the States, and I said, but I've never seen you in the States. Like we've never actually been in the States together. So it just kind of was I guess like a jumping off point of a friendship, because I have since gone to visit her several times. She lives in Texas. So we always kind of like to tell that story because it's like a love story, but of friendship. So
that's awesome. That's legit. That's legit. Like, really cool that you are able to get to know people that you bond like and grow a friendship with the time. But yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much, Kara, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it has been my joy and my pleasure. Guys, don't forget to check out her site, her Instagram, which is legit, and as well her writing website, which also it's awesome. Have a great day.